This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to another Friday edition, early Friday edition, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis here in the host chair. Hustler, you may have seen him on social media. Check Instagram story for Winnipeg Sports Talk for Hustlerama. Check him out on X. He is in Toronto at the World Cup, Canada, playing today at 2 p.m., which is why we are on early. Although I could get used to this Friday 12 o'clock show. So shout out to everyone who is in chat. We are starting a bit early. And if you're not here yet, watching later or listening on the podcast, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have the notifications on to get alerted when stuff like this happens. So Canada playing Bosnia at 2. So we are on here right now. We're going to talk with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers going up, going in the home opener last night and losing to Hamilton 37-20. Was it 37-27? Jeez. And Stanley Cup Final, Carolina on the verge of their second ever Stanley Cup win, going up 3-2 in the series to Vegas. And, CFL continues. We got World Cup, NBA Finals. That resumes tomorrow. So looking forward to all that. I'm going to bring in Connor Hrabchak in just a second here. But first, I got to give a shout out to all of the sponsors: Troy Hospital, Dream Lottery, Clean Line, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Safe Hotel Dental, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Travel Manitoba. Had a great time yesterday at the Visitor Center at the Forks. What a show that was. Check it out yesterday if you missed Chris Streveler's appearance. Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Little Brown Jug, and Cool Bet. We'll go over some of the lines at the end of the show. Guests coming up today: John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. We've got Murat of The Athletic. He's got opinions and thoughts. Ben Kramer, Onside CFL Fantasy, looking ahead to this weekend's games. We got Friday Night Football tonight. Argos, Alouettes, but tomorrow's game, Riders, Lions, that is could be the game of the year, or at least early part of the year. And Lee Hacksaw Hamilton always got stuff in his notebook. Let's bring him in right now. WST Jets reporter, host of Sunday Live, Bombers Report, doing many things. He's got the hat on, ready to support Team Canada. Connor Hrabchak. Connor, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Remo. Tough one last night for the Bombers. The atmosphere was awesome. Sellout crowd, Chris Streveler lookalike contest. I was out there, and the pregame tailgate. It was just exactly what you'd expect. I mean, there's a lot of fur coats on the stage, but tough one for the Bombers. We'll talk about that. Cup Final, pretty good game last night. Carolina's 1 win away. Nikolai Ehlers again. If you tuned into the Cup Final, you saw him doing his thing. And looking forward to, admittedly, I'm not a huge soccer guy, but I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I don't think you have to be the biggest soccer fan to appreciate how big of a kind of cultural event the World Cup is. So, and the fact that we're hosting it here in Canada makes it that much sweeter. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to this early show as well on a Friday.
Yeah, the comments flying in. People are missing the dyno behind you that we had yesterday at Travel Manitoba. We'll have to make it out there again. I believe that dinosaur will be at the Travel Manitoba offices at the Forks, the Visitor Center, all summer. But the Bomber game, I mean, they did announce near the end of our show yesterday, 15th straight sellout, despite the weather where we had some rain on and off. Looked like an incredible atmosphere at Princess Auto Stadium. You had Chris Strevler, tarps off, with the lookalike contest. It seemed like a great atmosphere, but the defense, Connor, looked a bit shaky week one against Calgary. They were able to lock it down in the second half. But Bo Levi torching the Bombers, 19 of 24, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Scored touchdowns on 3 of its first 4 possessions. In total for Hamilton, 37 points scored, and the Bombers allowed 455 yards on defense. Doesn't matter how good your offense is, and there were definitely some highlights on the offense, but defense could not keep the Bombers in the game. And even still, they had a chance to make a last-second push there at the end and couldn't get the stop that they needed.
Exactly. And that was really the story of the game, was their inability to get off the field on second down. And I know we had Chris Strevler on our show. Chris Strevler was at the game. He was on the panel. He was doing a million things. But he also tweeted during the game, Hamilton has been in second and medium and short all game. At that point, the playbook is completely open, so tough on a defense. So not only could the Bombers not get off the field, but on first down, Hamilton was picking up 7-8 yards, and it was 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2. And yeah, they can run the ball. They could take a deep shot. They could throw. To basically the whole playbook is open, like Chris Strevler is saying on Twitter there. And it was just one drive after another. It wasn't even really Bo Levi Mitchell picking apart the Bombers. He was awesome. He had all day to throw. Also, the run game, Hamilton struggled to run the ball at all last week against the Montreal Alouettes, and they came in and Larry Roundtree put up 124 yards on the ground. And you had Carrick Wheatfall go for 102 yards, and Keandre Smith had 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenny Lawler had 2 catches for 17 yards. And Hamilton still had no issues moving the ball whatsoever. And I think the biggest thing for me, or one of the biggest things of this game, is kind of spoiled a Zach Collaros gem. I mean, he completed 80% of his passes, 421 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tommy Neal did 7 catches for 111 yards. Terry Wilson had a great game. Dembski with the big touchdown. Tim White. And the run game really wasn't working for the Bombers. Brady Oliveira only 32 yards on the ground. But great game from Zach Collaros. I really liked the offense. Obviously, that pick late in the second quarter was not ideal. The missed field goal, not ideal. But the story of the game from a Bombers perspective is certainly the defense and their inability to get off the field.
Yeah, it almost seemed like it was Bomber revenge night. We thought it was going to be Kenny Lawler with the big game, but no, Carrick Wheatfall, 3 catches, 102 yards. You mentioned Lawler's 2 catches for 17 yards. We saw Mark Leggio, 3 for 3 from field goals, including a long of 53. Jake Dolegala getting into the end zone. That's right. He was on the Bombers. So it did kind of feel like that when you thought, it was going to be Tim White revenge game. But, he had 4 catches, 79 yards. I mean, a pretty impressive line from Zach Collaros, as you said. They did have chances for points. Interception in the end zone hurt when you didn't get any in the red zone. Tommy Neal, who had an exceptional game and has looked very good in a Blue Bomber uniform, 7 catches, 111 yards. But he had the drop. So it seemed like the Bombers, with the defense is playing that, not much margin for error. You need to score on every drive. They didn't quite do that. So it was definitely some bright spots with how Tommy Neal has looked, giving them multiple weapons on offense. I mean, I know it didn't count, but Nick Dembski with the catch where he was falling down on his back after the offensive PI. I mean, it was nice to see him get in the end zone after a very quiet week one, not really practicing this week due to injury. But the Bombers' offense looking good, but still concerned about the defense. However, Connor, it is week 2. And they are on bye next week. They showed adjustments last week in the second half. Time to make some adjustments now during the bye week.
Yeah, and I think the hope was that you'd see more of the second half defense from the Calgary game, right? So first half, they come out. Calgary, Dedrick Mills runs all over the Bombers, and they make adjustments at halftime, and the defense is better Vernon Adams still goes 106 yards or whatever it was on the final drive to take the lead in that game. But you were hoping that it was more of that, but it just wasn't for the Bombers. And look, Jordan Younger's typically a defensive coordinator that drops a lot of guys into coverage. I saw earlier that they're blitzing a little bit more this year. They weren't really getting pressure on Bo Levi last night. The secondary wasn't covering well, but how much of that is the D line? And it's really tough to, pin it on one part of the defense. It was really, really a group effort, I'd say, in all of that. And you see Carrick Wheatfall after the game going, come on down to Hamilton. It was certainly a Bomber revenge night. I did find this interesting, though. CFL Stats posted this on Zach Collaros. He posted 421 yards passing in a losing effort, the third highest total of his career, and fifth career 400-plus yard game. And through 2 games, Collaros is averaging 10.4 yards per attempt, which is number 1 in the CFL, and outpacing his career best 10.1 in 2023. So a great start to the season for Zach Collaros in the first 2 weeks with the new OC, new look offense, some players on the O-line, Tommy Neal, Tim White. The offense is humming along. It's time over the bye week, I think, to evaluate the defense and maybe lock things down there.
And that was the big question after the game. Head coach Mike O'Shea spoke, and Paul Friesen, the Winnipeg Sun, asked what happened to the defense yesterday.
We played young, didn't tackle well enough. Yeah, I think this, there's some plays you'd like to have back that just sort of some mistakes that we're not used to making, I think when they watch the film, they'll know, or I think they know now. And things that I think are easily fixed. But tackling, at some point, you just got to make the decision to wrap up and tackle somebody, right? Yeah. I thought we could have got off the field a couple more times just by cleaning up the tackling. Yeah.
Some of the other things, like a lot of big Bo Levi strikes, just getting beat by a real good quarterback and receivers.
A good offense. And well-designed offense. Yep. Yeah, you have to give credit to Hamilton. They're well coached, it's well designed, and it's run by a hell of a good quarterback, right?
You don't need about Bo, but did the running back take you by surprise?
I don't think he took us by surprise. I just don't, once again, there's no play design in defensive football that says we're going to leave 2 gaps uncovered, right? So if it happens, if there's a big space there where somebody's not in the right gap, and then you compound it by missing a tackle, and those big yards are made, right?
Did it feel like you were getting moved around?
Oh, I don't know about getting moved. I just think we fell short sometimes of our gaps. I don't think we were getting pushed around. Actually, didn't feel like that. Just felt like there was, loss of gap integrity and some better tackling was needed.
There's Mike O'Shea saying better tackling was needed, and Hamilton Ticats, who took the Alouettes, the Grey Cup, made the appearance in the Grey Cup last year, took them to overtime last week, and here they are with the win over the Blue Bombers. At the same time as last night, Stanley Cup Final, pivotal Game 5, Vegas, Carolina, in Carolina. And what was going to happen here? And it was the Nikolai Ehlers, Jordan Stahl show. And since putting that line together, they've been pretty good. And we saw things last night that we haven't seen in years. Jordan Stahl scoring in the 5th straight game of the Cup Final, joining Jean Beliveau, Maurice Richard, and Cyclone Taylor. That goes all the way back to 1918. Carter Hart gave up 4 goals for the 5th game in a row. John Tortorella asked post-game about that, if he ever considered switching. Told Johnny Lazarus from Daily Faceoff that was the stupidest question he heard all day. And Nikolai Ehlers, the former Winnipeg Jet, back-to-back 3-point games in the Cup Final. The last players to do that in the same final, Connor McDavid, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, Nikolai Ehlers. Leads all players in points in the Stanley Cup Final. Leads all players in points, or he led them in the conference final as well. Incredible run here for Nikolai Ehlers, and incredible run for the Hurricanes, who are 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, he's been awesome, Nikolai Ehlers, and last night again he was great. 3 assists. You brought up the stat there. He's in conversations with Connor McDavid and Wayne Gretzky and doing things that those guys were doing. It's pretty good company to be in. And look, the goaltending has completely swung in Carolina's favor in this series too. And I find it hilarious that Tortorella is like, that's the stupidest question I've ever heard. Yeah, well, your goalie's has let in 4+ goals every game. So I don't know. Your backup is also a Stanley Cup champion who won it, a couple years ago for the very same organization that you're coaching. I thought it was totally valid. Anyways, from a Carolina perspective, Brandon Bussey, great again last night. .920 save percentage. He was the 3rd star of the game. Nikolai Ehlers, of course, the 3 assists, leading the way offensively. And Svechnikov, he was one of the players, you look at the top line, they've split it up now. They've moved Jarvis around quite a bit, but the first couple of rounds when it was Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, that line was really struggling to produce offense. But Svechnikov, 2 power play goals last night. That's huge. Aho gets on the board as well. And then, Jordan Staal. Is this guy the Conn Smythe favorite now? This is unbelievable. He is having a crazy good final. And not only offensively, but he's the matchup guy. He goes up against the Eichel line. He goes up against the Marner line. He's out there for key defensive zone faceoffs. And he has scored a ton of goals in this series. So it's been impressive to watch Jordan Staal, who was drafted, I believe, in 2006, getting it done. And on the biggest stage at the Stanley Cup Final, Remo. It's crazy to watch. Yeah, 2nd overall, 2006, 37 years old.
Yeah, and we said Carolina, if they want to win this series, they need something from Aho and Svechnikov. And what an amazing goal by Aho, taking the puck from Stigates to stick to top shelf past Carter Hart. Svechnikov with 2 goals, and that might be the coaching move of the series, putting Ehlers with Jarvis and Staal in the middle. And, it seems whoever plays with Ehlers is going to get points. We saw what he did. Just look at Nemesnikov from last year to this year. Connor, Jordan Staal having this historic cup final, tipping one in off a pass from Ehlers, and we saw the goals earlier this year as well. The game winner in game 4 also assisted by Nikolai Ehlers. So it's been fantastic to watch him. A bit of a salt in the wound, continuing to watch this guy get elevated by Carolina, play big minutes, play important minutes, play on both power plays and win. But shout out to the Carolina Hurricanes. It's been a very entertaining final with back and forth scoring, overtimes. Yesterday, pretty normal game, actually. Pretty normal game. And yes, you mentioned Bussey coming in. First 2 career starts in the Cup Final. First 2 career playoff starts in the Cup Final, winning them both. And a lot of talk now, Connor, about the Conn Smythe. Who's going to win? Who's the favorite? It's time for a Chud's Power Sports Power Poll. Here we have. We'll do our blind ranking, Connor.
Blind ranking.
Okay. It's going to come up with names, and we'll put them on this sheet. I made this web. I vibe coded this Power Poll web app, by the way. I want to let everyone to know. So Nikolai Ehlers' first name. Where are you putting him on the Power Poll? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
I have 2 players in mind ahead of him for sure. So I'll put him 3. Okay. There's a smattering of Carolina players that you can argue 3 through 10, and he's in that mix. And he's having, he had 3 assists. He's got back-to-back, 3 assist performances here. We just read the stats, so I'll put him 3.
Did mention the Conn Smythe. It's for most. I like that it's most valuable in the playoffs. You have World Series MVP, right. You have NBA Finals MVP as well. This is for entire playoffs, and he's got 17 points. Well, there's a couple guys in Carolina ahead of him, Blake and Hall. Do you weight it more for Cup Final and
I think so.
And Conference Final? We'll see. But you're putting Ehlers 3. Okay, next name, Mitch Marner, leading all players in points, 29. The next closest is Eichel with 22. Taylor Hall's got 18. Mitch Marner, although I'll say a lot of talk about Mitch Marner in games, 5 through 7. Was he playing last night? I noticed him clear the puck on a penalty kill because Vegas was killing penalties the entire game.
Right.
But where are you putting Mitch Marner for the Conn Smythe?
Is it crazy to still put him number one, despite the fact that they're down 3-2 in the series? Like, I think there's a scenario in which he wins it, even if they lose. So I like a Connor McDavid a couple years ago situation, because McDavid was way ahead of everyone in terms of points in that Cup final as well. I don't know. I'll defer to you on this one. It's one or two, but I'm okay with either.
If you ask the odds makers, he is not number one, but I'm still putting Mitch Marner number one. Okay. He's leading the points by a wide margin. I think everyone on Carolina it's like been a team thing. Is one guy more valuable? And for Marner to be this much better than everyone in terms of points, setting franchise records for the Golden Knights, I am putting Mitch Marner number one. And you can bet on that on CoolBet because he's not the favorite. And even if Vegas wins, he's for sure getting it. But I do think the voters are smart. They know it's for the entire playoffs. But that's why this guy he's the betting favorite right now, Jordan Staal. He's got 5 goals, scored in 5 straight games in the Cup final, 6 goals, 1 assist so far. And that's really elevating him. John Tortorella saying the other day that they'd have no answer for his big presence in front of the net. So where are you putting Staal here in this conversation?
He's number 2. Yeah, he's number 2 for sure. I 1 or 2 are interchangeable for me. I still think Marner is a clear-cut winner if Vegas wins. There's a potential if they lose, even he'll get it. But Jordan Staal has separated himself as the Carolina Hurricanes representative, in my opinion, for the Conn Smythe. Funny enough, Remo, we were doing the power poll like last week. Freddie Anderson was, or 2 weeks ago before the Cup final started, Freddie Anderson was like the guy for Carolina and the betting favorite. Now he's not even playing. And it's like, there's no question he's not even going to be playing in game 6 because Bussy has been that good. So this could change, but give me Jordan Staal, number 2.
And I mentioned this before, like during the season, teams don't run their goalie every game. They switch. It's like in the baseball playoffs, they're not going to play a pitcher every game. And I wonder if teams rethink, going to a backup. Like John Tortorella saying he's not even considered. Well, did Carter Hart play this many games in a row in the season?
Remis, that's the stupidest question he's ever heard, apparently. So you're not going to play your backup goalie, who's a Stanley Cup champion, by the way, because your starter's been so good? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's 4 goals allowed against in every game of the Cup final so far. I don't think he was like particularly bad last night, like the Svechnikov tap-in off the Ehlers spinorama pass or the Staal tip-in, but he hasn't been exceptional or difference-maker like he was before. Taylor Hall, he's got 18 points. He's their leading point getter, 6 goals, 12 assists, 4 or 5 on the wing. He's adding a big physical presence as well.
Put him number 5. I think there's a couple Carolina players that I think I'd put over him, and that is one of them. Logan Stankoven, number 4. Yeah, I'd put Stankoven over him.
So there's our power poll for the Conn Smythe Chud's Power Sports. Mitch Marner 1, Jordan Staal 2, Nikolai Ehlers 3, Logan Stankoven 4, Taylor Hall 5. Very up in the air for Carolina. Vegas, it's Marner or bust at this point. And we did have the NHL awards trickling out yesterday, as they don't really have the awards show anymore. Couldn't make it entertaining. That's why, Connor, although at the last one in Vegas, Hustler and I were the only people laughing at comedian Matt Friend's jokes. We were up there, doing a lot of knee slappers up there. I think we were the only ones who thought it was funny, but it was Nikita Kucherov winning the Hart Trophy. Very, very tight race. Like narrowly, I think it was 10 points more than McDavid. McKinnon just behind. No one really separating ourselves. Celebrini was in there as well. Any thoughts on the Hart Trophy race?
Yeah, this Hart Trophy race was so fascinating, and there are so many worthy candidates that I don't really have like a hot take around the Hart Trophy this year. I think Nikita Kucherov is a totally valid winner. I think you could have given it to McDavid or McKinnon. Celebrini, I think, would have been in there when you look at the voting. Like, he's a good, 600 voting points below third place. If he made the playoffs, I think that would have done a lot for the voters, and he would have been maybe one or two on the voting, but I'm fine with Nikita Kucherov winning it. It's his second Hart Trophy. Connor McDavid misses out by 10 points. I mean, McDavid was awesome as well this year, and Draisaitl missed time, and he dragged the Oilers into the playoffs, if you will, and barely did at that, because the pillow fight Pacific, as he called it during the regular season, the points were very low. But to me, I'm fine with Kucherov winning it. What do you think? Do you have a hot Hart Trophy take?
Hart Trophy, it uses the term most valuable to his team, which is such a subjective term that you could define to mean anything. What doesn't mean it has to go to a playoff team. Kucherov had 130 points this season. That's second behind McDavid's 130. What makes one guy so valuable? Is it the best guy on the team that squeaked into the playoffs, like when Taylor Hall won the Hart Trophy? I think you could argue that Celebrini is certainly worthy. He had double. He had 115 points. That was double the next closest person. But some people say, oh, you could never be valuable. Your team didn't make the playoffs. That's why we play. Well, it's not his fault. The team surrounding him wasn't up to par. So I think you can just argue anything. So I don't think I could go one way or another. Kucherov, McDavid, McKinnon, you ask anyone who are the top three players in the league, you could get a different order any day of the week on that. So I think let
me see that. Remo, Gabriel Landeskog, did we get an update on who voted for him? He got a 5th place Hart Trophy vote.
He did.
I know he won the Masterton. Yeah, but what was going on there? I mean, Dan Vladar got 2 5th place Hart Trophy votes. Jack Hughes got a 5th place. Scott Wedgwood got a 4th place vote. Some of the voting at the bottom of the list kind of made me scratch my head. But it doesn't matter. It's 5th place votes, but it's Gabriel Landeskog Hart Trophy. I don't know.
Well, Kucherov won it in 2019. He gets the Hart Trophy back from Connor Hrabchak, who won it last season. That's enough for the hockey for now. We'll get back to it with Murat, Atesh. But let's bring in John Hodge just after this 3-Down Nation. We'll talk Bombers drop the home opener to Hamilton.
This is the time, folks. Last week to get your tickets for the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery and count yourself in for early bird prizes worth over $250,000. Get your tickets at tryhospitaldream.com before midnight on Friday, and you will have the option, if you are the big early bird winner, of a 26 Land Rover Range Rover SE plus $50,000 cash, or a 26 Mercedes-Benz G850 SUV valued at over $245K, or $210,000 cash tax-free. There's also 25 $500 early bird winners in cold hard cash. And of course, everyone getting a ticket will be in for the grand prize draw. And the grand prize will be one of 5 $1.7 million dream home packages, or $1.35 million cash. It is all in support of the Health Sciences Center, the St. Boniface Hospital, and the HSC Children's Hospital. Get your tickets today, gang. Tryhospitaldream.com, or pop by your local London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations to get them in person. Make sure to check out the 50/50 and extra cash plus options as well. Become an instant millionaire and support our hospitals with the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery. A big shout out to our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Of course, Clean Line are Winnipeg's most trusted plumbers with over 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg, leading the way as well with residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services around the greater Winnipeg area. You can check them out online and make an appointment at cleanline.ca. And don't forget the number 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. I was out fishing on the weekend and, got into talk about boats and everything that goes on with, with fishing weekend. And one thing was clear. The guys in the know for batteries all go to Manitoba Battery. It was fun talking to a bunch of fellows that I just met for the first time about how they are at Manitoba Battery a number of times a year because, of course, Manitoba Battery is the local option with the best prices in town, period. These guys aren't wasting their time and money at the big box stores. They're shopping local. They're going to Logan Avenue. They're going to Dovercourt Drive and getting the best prices in town for their boats, for their RVs, for their dirt bikes, you name it. If it needs a battery to take on summer, Manitoba Battery has it, and Manitoba Battery is the best price in town. Manitoba Battery also very fired up to be on board with your Winnipeg Blue Bombers as a corporate sponsor. It all starts on Thursday with the home opener. Manitoba Battery, your number one local option for the best and lowest prices in batteries and powering your blue and gold this year. And hey, got to shout out our friends at Rolly's Transfer as well. If you've got a move coming up this summer or fall, lean on our friends at Rolly's, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. They've been doing it for over 60 years, family owned and operated. Make sure to go and check out their website at rollys.com. Top right corner, you can request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to move. The friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they have been famous for over 60 years. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today over at rollys.com.
There's us. He's at the World Cup. Check him out on social media. Going to Canada, Bosnia today at 2. That's why we're on early. And joining us earlier than our normally scheduled time, John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. John, nice to have the home opener underway. Wasn't so nice the way the defense played, giving up 37 points yesterday. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so let's start with the defense. I mean, I think that's the story of the game. You have Zach Collaros throw for 400 yards. The offense had their moments, obviously the pick at the end, but what do you think was the biggest contributor to the fact that the Bombers just simply couldn't get off the field?
Well, I mean, you got to give credit to the Ticats first and foremost.
Sure.
Bo, I thought, had one bad throw all game, and it was the game where Kenny Lawler had dusted Dietrich Nichols on a double move, and had Bo hit Kenny, it would have been a 102-yard touchdown. Instead, just overthrew him by a few yards near midfield. But, I mean, in terms of the defense, I sought to answer that question walking around the locker room. I talked to over half the team's starters. 2 of them, Jake Serezna and Reddick Ramsey, called the performance horrible. That was their word. And it didn't seem like anybody could really pinpoint one thing. And obviously they haven't watched the film yet. The film study will be done. But the one kind of common factor that came through a lot of the interviews was just fundamentals. And Mike O'Shea talked about that after the game, with sloppy tackling, right? Like Larry Roundtree, I'd have to watch the game back, but what would you guess? 8 broken tackles in that one? Like, he was slipping and sliding through Winnipeg defenders, no problem. And I thought maybe my favorite quote was from Dietrich Nichols, the team's fantastic boundary halfback, who had maybe the worst game I've seen him play. He's a brilliant player. And should be, I think he's a 2-time All-CFL All-Star. He should be a 4 or 5-time All-CFL player. But he had a poor performance last night. And the way he said it is, we just have to play like 8-year-old football again. And what he meant by that was, like, there's nothing fancy that they did. There's nothing wild that we need to do. Like we just did not tackle well enough. We did not cover in space well enough. Like, we did not win our one-on-one matchups well enough. Like, these are basic fundamental skills that they need to get better at. So I'm going to have a column up at 3downnation.com by Saturday with all the quotes in it from the defensive players trying to break it down. But it was shocking, guys. This defense has been one of the CFL's best for many years. They are consistently number 1 in opposing quarterback rating. And obviously Bo absolutely shredded them last night. Over 80% completions, 3 touchdowns. Winnipeg just had absolutely no answer, no pressure. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't cover the receivers in the backfield. It was a miserable defensive performance, and that was very much apparent from the conversations I had in the locker room.
Yeah, you mentioned Dietrich Nichols. It was him who got burned on the final, the final chance the Bombers had to, get the ball back and maybe have a comeback like they did last week. And last week we saw the Bombers have a poor defensive showing in the first half, but they were able to lock it down in the second, which led to the comeback. Looking back at the defense after the first two games heading into the week 3 bye, how big of a concern for you is the play of this defense?
I mean, I think the continuity on this defense in terms of its coaching staff and also its personnel means that it deserves a pretty good benefit of the doubt, right? I think they're the first ones to admit that last night was miserable. And the first half from week 1 was also poor, right? They got run all over by Dedrick Mills in Calgary. And then in the second half, they largely were dominant. Yes, they gave up that long drive towards the end of the game, but I mean, VA made some absolutely world-class throws to have that happen. And the defense played well enough, absolutely game 1 to win. Game 2, no. The defense was a massive liability. Again, 7 of 9 scoring drives for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And one of those scoring drives, they scored 3 touchdowns in a row in the first half. They might have scored a touchdown on that 4th drive had they not run out of time and just had to send Mark Leggio out for a 53-yard field goal. So is it a concern? Yes, because I think anytime you play terribly in a game, right, there's going to be concern regardless of whether you're a team with high expectations, low expectations, a strong defense, a weak defense, strong offense, strong defense, whatever, right? But I don't think they need to be pressing the panic button yet. I'm really curious to see how this unit bounces back coming off the bye week once they've had an opportunity to lick their wounds, watch the film, and determine exactly what went wrong and how to correct it.
I think one area that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are happy with through the first 2 weeks is their offense, and more specifically the play of their quarterback, Zach Collaros. CFL Stats tweeted out that his yards per attempt are at 10.4, which is better so far than his 2023 number in terms of 10.1 yards per attempt. So a solid start to the season with Tommy Condell and all of these new weapons around Zach Collaros. What did you make of his performance last night? And Tommy Neal with a bit of a breakout game, 7 catches for 111 yards.
Yeah, I thought Zach was very good. The one knock, and it was a big error, but it was the interception of the end zone. Yeah. There's no reason to throw in a double coverage in that situation. You're in field goal range. You never want to put the ball at risk in that case. But it was also first down. Like, why are you airing it out in a double coverage? Stavros Katsantonis is the best ball hawk in the CFL. This is a guy who had 20 interceptions in college at the University of British Columbia, and that has absolutely translated to the Canadian Football League. He is as good at making those plays as anybody. So that was the big knock. Outside of that play, I thought Zach was great. I thought that he moved his feet well, buying himself some time, finding room in the pocket. The pass protection was good at times. I thought it let him down a little bit at others. And when it did let him down, I thought he did a great job of managing that pressure, finding space, moving up in the pocket, sidestepping defenders, in a couple of cases delivering the football with authority and then taking a big wallop, right? Those are all things Zach Collaros has generally been able to do over the course of his career. But the last 2 years, you lay out the numbers, Connor. I mean, the passing game was miserable last year, and it was nothing to write home about in 24 and arguably even 23. I mean, this is a multi-time MOP. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect Zach, but the passing game that we've seen so far this year is hands down, I think 1 or even 2 notches above what we've seen in the past. Last year, there were some scheme issues. There were some personnel issues with that receiving core. This year, I think you have to love what you've seen. Like, Tommy Neal was kind of the guy on Thursday night, but I think the most encouraging thing, arguably, is that there is no number 1 in this receiving core right now. Like, Zach is making a lot of hay throwing the ball to Tommy Neal. He's making a lot of hay throwing it to Pokey. He's making a lot of hay throwing to Tim White, who had the touchdown last week, over 60 yards against his old team. And then, of course, Nick Dembski had a bit of a breakout game for 2026 after a bit of a quiet week 1, catches the 40-yard 1 touchdown on a corner, dusting the single high defender. So this was just a game. And by the way, we've seen the opposite play out time and time again, the last 2 years especially, where the defense has to be brilliant because the offense is struggling. This was the first time in a long time we've seen the opposite, where the offense had to be close to perfect to win that game just because the defense could not generate stops, no takeaways, only one punt for the Tabbies last night. And the offense just, again, was very good, but was not great. And that's why this team lost.
There's so much talk last week about Jake Ceresna, even leading up to the game. Ceresna and Willie Jefferson. Ceresna had the 3 sacks, only got 1 sack on Bo Levi. Was this just a veteran quarterback or something about the pass protection? Why do you think they weren't able to get pressure yesterday?
I was really surprised, actually, that there wasn't more pressure, especially in the second half. That pass rush absolutely came along in week 1 in the second half. It was brilliant. Jake Ceresna was an absolute game wrecker. Willie Jefferson was great. And this week, there was just none of that. And the surprising part of it, fellas, was there was a shakeup along the offensive line. Chris Kolonkowski was moved to a depth role. They shifted Liam Dobson from right guard to center, and they played Nathaniel Desmoulins-Duguay at right guard, a guy who, yes, is a former first-round pick out of Laval, but has spent most of his first 2 years in the league on injured reserve. And so anytime you make any type of change along the offensive line, right, that unit is so reliant on cohesion and consistency from week in, week out. I think there's always an opportunity as a defense to make a little hay. And then when you've got, again, Dobson playing, he's a good center, but somewhat out of position, moving from guard to center. He is more of a guard. And then you've got a not totally unproven, untested player, but a young, relatively inexperienced player at guard. You go, okay, like this is an opportunity, especially for Jake Ceresna in the middle, Cam Lawson, who I think is underrated at nose, to make some plays, right? To push that middle and snuff out some of the run game and collapse the pocket onto Bo. And Bo is not a guy who is fleet-footed, right? He is not a dual threat. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not a dual threat quarterback. And so the fact that Winnipeg was unable to get almost any pressure, the only pressure I saw that really impressed me was David Remis, Syracuse product in his first career game on Hamilton's first possession of the second half. I thought got a really nice pressure on left tackle Trevor Reed, got in the throwing lane, forced a punt, and that was the only punt of the game, again, for the Ticats. So that pass rush has to be better, right? Defense is complementary. The better the secondary can perform, the longer they give that front to get to the quarterback, and vice versa. The quicker the front can get to the quarterback, the more pressure you're taking off the secondary and not forcing them to hold and hold and hold. So that unit has to be better. And yeah, they got a sack late in the second half, but it was a coverage sack. So defensive front has to be best.
For sure. Just before we ask you about the rest of the CFL and maybe some of the games coming up this weekend, what do you think will be front of mind for the Bombers as they now head into a bye week? And then coming out of the bye, they're at home against the Edmonton Elks, a Western Division opponent. What do you think will be the top of their to-do list or their must-solve list as they head into the bye?
Yeah, I asked Mike O'Shea what his message was to the team heading into the bye, and he essentially said, it's take care of your bodies. Yeah, like stay focused, don't lose focus, but also take some time. And it's a low key message. It's the kind of low key player friendly message that I think Mike O'Shea has come to be the norm in Winnipeg, and obviously it's working. Right, this team has had winning records consistently for a decade, 5 Grey Cup appearances, 2 championships. So I don't think you want to mess with that. That said, I think defensively you want to start looking at maybe come 2 weeks from now, come week 4. Who could you potentially get back into the lineup, right? Deshaun Dixon moved out. Michael Fletcher moved in. David Remis moved in. Is the injury situation going to be any different? And then, and by the way, are there any new injuries that have come up? I didn't notice any last night on Winnipeg's side, but sometimes these things don't flare up until after the game. So, if you're the Bombers, I think you just have to get back to basics. And The good news for them is outside of Justin Rankin, who's an absolute supercharged dual threat machine out of the backfield as a ball carrier and receiver, Edmonton's offense is not terribly explosive. So you're going to have an easier test in week 4 than you did in week 2 with Bo and all of the weapons that he's got, and a brilliant head coach and offensive coordinator in Scott Milanovich. Actually, he gave up the offensive coordinator title technically recently, but a brilliant offensive mind regardless. Jared Baines is their offensive coordinator. But I think, certainly some wounds to lick, some film to study. I'm curious how this team will bounce back.
Yeah, not explosive offense going up against a Cody Fajardo-led team. I've heard that one before, John. We'll look forward to week 4. But, looking after the first 2 weeks here, I mean, has anything changed about your opinion on the Blue Bombers, on how they stack up this season with the West? I know it's tough to say. We've got the big BC-Saskatchewan game on Saturday, both their first game of the season.
Look, I mean, if you're Winnipeg, you have to be disappointed with the home loss, right? You've sold out the stadium. The fans showed up. They showed out, despite getting absolutely deluged a couple of times with rain. But at the end of the day, they got to win week 1 on the road. That's key. They were not good on the road in 2025, and they also couldn't knock off the Calgary Stampeders in 2025. They've done both those things now. The home loss stinks. You never like to lose at home, but Hamilton's a good team. And so, 1-1, I think it's a serviceable start to the season. And beyond that, I mean, I think you're kind of looking forward to the opportunity to sit back and have the opportunity to watch what some of these other teams do on film, right? Like Winnipeg and Hamilton, there've only been 4 games this CFL season, and Winnipeg and Hamilton have played 2, which in some ways is an advantage. You want to hit the ground running. In some ways, it's a disadvantage. Everybody else gets to sit back and watch the film and figure out exactly what it is that you're doing and what's working, what's not working, the kind of adjustments that you're making in game, between games. Like, we still haven't seen 3 teams hit the field. The Argos will do it Friday night, and then Saturday we'll get 2 new teams in Saskatchewan and BC. So I think if you're the Bombers, that bodes well to get the opportunity to sit back. Edmonton, for example, idle this week, but they do play in week 3. And so that'll be a good opportunity for this team to sit and watch. I'm pretty sure Edmonton has Montreal at home in week 3, and then they come. And actually, when Edmonton comes, they'll be on a short week. They play Saturday against Montreal. Then they're in Winnipeg the following Thursday. Tough to win on a short week. If you are playing at home and you have a visitor coming to town on a short week, that's usually a recipe for a win. So, again, I don't think fans should be panicking, but I do think it's okay if you're a fan to have an eyebrow raised maybe at the defensive performance.
The Bombers will be kicking back and watching, and so will we tonight with the Argos and Alouettes. But more importantly, tomorrow night when BC takes on Saskatchewan in a West Final rematch. What are you expecting from that game as we see those 2 times for the first time this season?
I mean, BC is my pick to win the Grey Cup, but Saskatchewan was number 1 on my power rankings ballot for 3downnation.com heading into this week and really all off season. So I think these are both very good teams. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, banner day at Mosaic Stadium. It doesn't look like it's on track for a sellout, but it does look like it's going to be a great crowd. And look, I mean, I think Saskatchewan's offense has the opportunity to be even better this year than it was last year. They had Kean Schaefer-Baker, Samuel Emelis, Keyshawn Johnson, their top 3 receivers, all out for extended periods. Those guys are all healthy right now. And the offensive line is all back. The defensive secondary is all back. The question in Saskatchewan for me is the D line. They lost basically everybody. James Vaughters is kind of the veteran that they've brought in from Winnipeg. Rock solid for the Bombers last year, but he's not Malik Carney, right, who was brilliant for Saskatchewan all year in 2025 and became one of the CFL's highest paid defensive players in free agency, joining the Elks. So I'm looking to see Desmond Evans is kind of the name that everybody is throwing out. I believe that's his name in Saskatchewan, who's kind of drawn some rough comps to Willie Jefferson. He's getting the start at the other defensive end spot. And Caleb Saunders, who I think has been great for them in a depth role along the interior, he's getting the start at one of the 2 defensive tackle spots. So we'll see how that unit gels. And then for the Lions, I mean, Nathan Rourke's the best player in the league for my money. He's got his great weapons back in the receiving core with Justin McInnis, of course, Keon Hatcher, who's brilliant. The offensive line is a unit I'm going to be watching. Corey Woodruff is taken over from Jarrell Broxton at left tackle. I think Woodruff's a good player. I don't think he's Jarrell Broxton. So does that potentially speed up Nathan Rourke's clock? Does that potentially force him to use his legs more? And then defensively, fellas, I think the defensive line in BC is fantastic. Levi Bell, if he's not a name that you're watching right now, he's a guy you have to watch. Came on late last year. I think he could be a game wrecker this year opposite Matthew Betts. And then the question mark in Vancouver, in my opinion, is the secondary. They're old on the boundary side with Gary Peters and TJ Lee. Well, Gary Peters got placed on the 6-game injury list today. So they're banged up there, and then they're young to the field. So the D-line in Sask is the only real area of concern for me. The secondary in BC is the only real area of concern for me. So a couple of defensive positional groups there. But, I mean, again, these teams are great. Sask going to be better on special teams as well with Brett Lothar no longer there, you'd think. So I'm excited for Saturday. Appointment viewing. I know everyone's talking soccer these days, but to me, Saturday, this game, it's only week 2, but it's appointment viewing for me.
I'm looking forward to that one, and we'll leave it with this, John. The Bombers had the Chris Streveler retirement party last night pregame. People dressing up for coats, cowboy hats. I mean, why do you think Streveler has resonated with the fans? And I mean, where does he rank among Bombers legend? I mean, Dave Naylor seems to be almost dumbfounded that he's so popular here as a backup quarterback, like gadget style player. What happened here for people, that ended up like this?
I mean, Streveler has an absolutely infectious personality, right? That's part of it. I think the fact that most female Bomber fans and some male Bomber fans find him extremely attractive might be part of it, right? Like there's a reason everybody loves watching him shirtless in the fur coat. And I think that's because a lot of people were attracted to what they saw. The Bombers did tweet last night, Streveler's taking off his clothes, hide your wives, right? Like there's a reason for it. Like that's part of it. Now on the field, I think, he became somewhat synonymous with the 2019 Grey Cup run. Like he ran over the Stamps in the West Semi. He threw a touchdown pass in the Grey Cup, and then he celebrated harder than anybody else. And I think that really resonated with the city that had gone 29 years, right, without a championship. And I think he also has kind of cemented himself as part of this, I'll call it an era of Blue Bombers football, because he was there for the run up to the first Grey Cup, and then he came for the latter part of the 5 straight Grey Cup appearances. And so, yeah, he wasn't there in the middle, and it should be stated, he threw 26 touchdown passes and 31 picks, which objectively is not a good ratio. He went 9-9 as a starter. But the interesting thing and what makes him so unique is typically, right, it's a well-known thing in football circles, like, oh, the most popular guy on the team is the backup quarterback, right? And the reason people say that is because a lot of fans maybe secretly are like, yeah, I think the backup's better than the starter. That's not the case with Strev. I don't think anyone's ever said, oh, yeah, he should be the starter for this team. He's better than Zach Collaros. He's just so infectious, right? He's such a big personality. He's so likable. I'll say it this way, fellas. Last night, I was getting a coffee during a break in the game, and he popped into the media center, not the outdoor section where everyone's like working on their laptops watching the game, but just the interior media center. And he popped in. He may or may not have had a wobbly pop in his hands. And he just kind of calls out, hey, is everybody working hard in here? Just messing around. And I was one of 2-3 people grabbing drinks, and I was like, hey man, we're media, so obviously we're just messing around. And he laughed and dapped me up, and and then he went on and he did his next little adventure, right? Like he's almost like a modern folk hero bard who just walks around and makes people laugh and feel good about themselves and have a grand old time. And so if you're a Bomber fan, yeah, how do you not love Chris Streveler? His legacy will live on, and I don't think we've seen the last of him because he's so active on social media. He's so beloved here. If it's media opportunities, endorsements, right, I think he's going to have ample off-field opportunities. He does coaching down in Arizona where he lives in the offseason, but I think he's going to be, maybe not quite to this extent, but almost like a Milt Stegall, a guy where you still, long after he's retired, you're seeing him on your television, not just for the TSN broadcast, but for different commercials and products and advertisements in Winnipeg. He's just that beloved.
We had him on yesterday. Incredible personality, incredible speaker, and you watch him in the Grey Cup, and playing with the injuries that he did, running people over. As a guy you wanted to cheer for and see do well, and as you said, funny you mentioned him like a folk hero, just walking around, and puts a smile on everyone's face, and it does seem like he, if he wants to, which seems that he does, we'll have a career in media. He's certainly built for it. John, thank you so much for coming on. Love reading all your stuff after every Blue Bomber game on 3 Down Nation. Got anything else coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we have analysis. Like I do the post-bomber pieces. We have contributors who do post-gamers from each kind of team's perspective. So we've got a bunch of those articles coming, of course, over the next couple of days. I'm really excited, by the way, to see how the Argos look. The Argos, when you talk to people around the league, some people think Chad Kelly's going to come back and make that team competitive. Some people think they are going to be dog water. So they're kind of open right now, and so I'm curious for that. So that, and then of course Power Rankings Monday, our awards on Tuesday. You can set your watch sometimes to our publication schedule throughout the CFL season, and we encourage everybody to check out our website.
Love 3 Down Nation. So thanks a lot, John, for taking the time. Looking forward to catching up with you again later on this season.
Thanks, fellas. Anytime.
There he is, John Hodge. Follow him on X, John D. Hodge, and check out 3 Down Nation. We'll continue with the hockey talk with Murat Atesh next. But first up, here's Huss.
I do want to thank Princess Auto for their great support of WST. I mentioned a bunch of the fishing dudes were talking about Manitoba Battery on the weekend. They were also talking about the new Princess Auto store. Everyone there had either been there already and raved about it or had planned to get there ASAP when they had got back to the city. This new Princess Auto flagship store is the talk of the town, gang. We've never seen anything like it. You can pop in, you can grab a beer, you can grab a smash burger, take a look, the biggest Princess Auto ever. And especially if you are a camper, a fisherman, a hunter, they've juiced up and got the best of all merchandise, gear, equipment for all of those as well, in addition to everything you've come to know at Princess Auto. Bring the kids, there's free ice cream, there's areas where you can work on stuff, you can shoot a crossbow. It needs to be seen to be believed. So get on down 500 Panet Road, the new flagship Princess Auto store. And on Thursday, make sure you're at Princess Auto Stadium to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do their thing. More information online at princessauto.com. Big weekend over at Chud's, I'm sure. They closed for the May long weekend, and now it's all systems go for summer. So Chud's Power Sports, both new and used inventory available for you when it comes to motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, golf carts, boats and outboard motors, farming equipment, recreational vehicles, big RVs, Argos, and more. They've got some great deals on right now, on used inventory when it comes to motorcycles, side-by-sides, RVs. Great financing options made easy for you so you can turn your adventure into reality. While you're there, make sure to ask them about True North Parts. If you go to their website, chudspowersports.com, you can click on the link. It'll take you to quality used power sports with great deals on ATVs, side-by-side, snowmobiles, motorcycles, outboards, as well as clearance gear and accessories. They're all waiting for you. Go see the Derminator and the gang of Chuds, Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli, or check them out online today at chudspowersports.com. Hey, if it's been a minute since you've been to see the dentist, don't let that lang. Get that done before we get into the beautiful summer, and it's one less thing on your to-do list. And if you need a great spot to take care of your teeth for yourself and your family, pop down to St. Vital Dental Center, like generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans have. Our good friend Dr. Terry would love to take care of you and your group when it comes to dental services. They do it all for clients from 6 months to 99 plus, with a full range of services from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They do it all. They got a great new spot at 167 St. Anne's, with convenient free parking right behind the building as well. For all your dental needs, pop by St. Vital Dental Center. Hit them up online and make an appointment at stviteldental.ca, and make sure to tell Dr. Terry that the boys at WST sent you. And hey, it is World Cup week. The world is here. It's in Canada. The teams have arrived, and it is go time. Mexico kicks off the tournament on Thursday, and then Canada and Bosnia-Herzegovina, 2 p.m. Winnipeg time, Saturday afternoon. Boston Pizza's the place to be for it. Wear red to Boston Pizza's Canada Red viewing parties at every local BP Friday, June 2nd at 2 p.m. They'll be giving away Team Canada jerseys and World Cup swag, including 3 huge Trianda Authentic World Cup balls from Royal Sports. You can grab the BP $15 lunch special. And every World Cup game is going to be on the big screens at Boston Pizza with specials, prizes, and your chance to win a grand prize trip for 2 to the World Cup Final in New York. Stick around. We'll have another MVP platter to give away at the end of today's game.
There's Huss. He's not here today. He is at the World Cup, and you're going to want to go on our Instagram story, Sports Talk WPG, Hustlers, social media. He's with regular guest Jeff Feinberg, Jake Boland-Moss, taking in Canada and Bosnia. And I know this next guest is excited that we are not on during that game because he'll be dialed in as well. Murat Atesh of The Athletic. What's going on, Murat? How you doing?
Life is good. Happy to be here. And you're absolutely right. I don't have my Canada gear on like you guys do. I got my Shoresy Bulldogs gear on. Not quite the same, but my heart will be in it. I'm so jacked for this to start. Davies being out, okay, we'll deal with that. But like, I'm still like Turkey's qualified, Canada's qualified as an adult. Murat, I genuinely don't get the opportunity to do this. So we're going all out over here.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. On the hockey, the Stanley Cup Finals continue, and Carolina is 1 win away from winning it all for the first time since 2006. What have you made of the Stanley Cup Final so far? And of course, here in Winnipeg, Nikolai Ehlers with another great performance last night, 3 assists.
Yeah. First of all, the hockey has been incredible. The back and forth, the ability for both teams to come back. You'd never count either of them out. I thought going into the series, it'd be Vegas counterpunching a little bit more and Carolina owning the puck. And we have seen some of that, but Vegas has been able to drive play too, especially the Eichel line. Whatever happens in the end, and Manitoba's going to win the Stanley Cup. Seth Jarvis contributing to a lot of scoring chances. That's good. I thought he looked snake bit early on in the series. There's some just misfires and off moments, but he's coming on. And then, of course, Nikolai Ehlers with another 3-point game. That's, I think I'm over rants. I think I'm over like smarminess about it, but he has hit 17 points in 17 playoff games. Ties Kyle Connor for the most points in one playoff run. I was sent this stat from the Canes stats where Ehlers posted back-to-back 3-point games. The last players to do that in the same final were Connor McDavid, Mario Lemieux, and Wayne Gretzky. So now you're getting these crazy stats associated with Ehlers if he wins the Stanley Cup and ultimately proves that he knew how to pick a winner last offseason. It's going to continue to be a story here in Winnipeg as well.
Yeah, Murat, it's hard not to watch the Cup Final over and over again and see Nikolai Ehlers, a player who, got 12 minutes in his last 2 games with the Winnipeg Jets, be among ice time leaders for Carolina, play on both power plays, and again, have back-to-back 3-point games in a Cup Final. The last 2 to do that, you said, Lemieux, Gretzky. The others, all basically Hall of Famers. Paul Coffey, Dennis Potvin, Boom Boom Geoffrion, Ted Lindsay, Gordie Howe playing on the biggest stage here. You think the Jets have, would do anything differently here? Would you even go through this? I feel like we were talking about the same thing. It's very rattling, watching a player here that was here, leave for nothing and do this with Carolina? I don't even know what the question is, but
I'll tell you, I'll give you a multiple choice here because I feel like I've thought about this so many times. I can put on any hat and go down any lane. So if you want an acerbic rant about how Nikolai Ehlers was always ready to do what he's doing now and scored 5 goals in his last 5 Winnipeg Jets playoff games, I can do that. If you would like, I've also been thinking a lot about like what would be a responsible, less smarmy, less I told you so lesson to take forward from this. And I think that might be more productive as much as the other one could be fun too.
Well,
Remis, go ahead. You go ahead.
I don't know. We've just done this over and over every time that you're on, but it's so hard not to when, it just did not work out for Winnipeg. Unfortunately, they just had a miserable season. I think that, makes it hurt even more. But, congratulations to him. Nice to see him have success. We don't need to spend the whole time talking about a player who's no longer on the Jets, unless he ends up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, which is in the realm of possibility at this point.
It's, theoretically possible, which is wild to think. With is it 8 points in 5 games so far in the Stanley Cup Final? 2 goals in the first, and then back-to-back 3-point assist nights. Is that
Yeah?
Well, he's got
it's all blurring together. He's scoring a lot of points right now.
Yes, 3 goals and 5 assists by a player in their first 5 career Stanley Cup Final games. The other players to do that: Connor McDavid, Joe Sakic, Brian Leetch, Mario Lemieux, Mike Bossy, Max Bentley, and Toe Blake. Again, legends in that list. But we'll move on.
There is an opinion I have on this, and it's like, what is sensible to talk about? Because it's annoying. If I come off here and go rattle off stats and blah blah blah, you thought he wasn't able to do this, he wasn't supposed to be big. That's annoying at a certain point, right? Like, get over it. The useful thing though is maybe we would all do better if we didn't treat our interpretations of a player's ability as permanent fixtures, as like we should be thinking of them as snapshots only. If you go back to his first playoffs, he did struggle to produce points, and all of a sudden people are tarnishing him with this can't win brush that just way outlived the reputation. And it's weird that we do that in this sport where we're also willing to say the very true thing. Hockey is a team game, right? Like, it's harder to pick a hockey winner because there's so much chaos in it. You need all 20 guys to contribute. It's not basketball where you can throw, Wemby on and just make it to the final on that alone. It's such a team game. And like, why would we ever paint an individual with that kind of permanent brush? When it comes to that, like, Ehlers has become a winner overnight. I don't know that he's necessarily changed a whole lot from last year. And when we think about Winnipeg Jets decisions going forward, some people are like, oh goodness, you can't win with Kyle Connor. He doesn't back check well enough, or he gets stuffed at the blue line. And it's like, well, honestly, you get a 90-point player. You should be able to win with him if you build the rest of the team right. If you say the same thing about Mark Scheifele, you're upset about his back check on the overtime goal at the Worlds, and you're like, well, I've seen that back check before. Well, like, get over it. The guy can produce points. The point is that hockey is a team sport. And I think that whether it's Ehlers or Logan Stanley or Ville Heinola or Darnell Nurse on the trade block now or whatever we're doing, like, it just seems short-sighted and incorrect to treat our opinions as permanent descriptions of any hockey player. And that's the thing I've been thinking about the most of late.
I like the way you laid that out, Murat. And I remember reading something in The Athletic from one of your latest pieces on this saying, Connor and Scheifele and Morrissey and Hellebuck aren't the problems with the Jets. It's that they don't have more of those guys. And I like the way you outlined that in terms of the team game element. One of the big reasons Carolina is getting it done with the team game is because of the late resurgence or the Stanley Cup Final big game narrative surrounding Jordan Staal. He's having an incredible series. 37 years old, drafted in 2006. What are you making? I mean, he's riding shotgun with Ehlers, and Jarvis is on that line too. That line has been so critical for Carolina's success. But what is running through your mind when you're seeing Jordan Staal have the impact that he's having in a Cup Final?
Yeah, and you're seeing his name, just like we did with Ehlers a moment ago, with like all-time greats in terms of the accomplishments of consecutive goals. I think he scored in every single game of the Cup final so far. Like, that's incredible. So I'm thinking, first of all, what do they serve at the Hoito? How do I get myself some of that? What other Thunder Bay references do I have? I know there's a lot of Finnish people down there as well. It's incredible. And that's why we do this, right? That's what sport is beautiful for. Whatever your role is, there is a moment for you if you stick at it for long enough and you have some ability in that hard work. And at 37 years old, Jordan Staal's proven himself in a few, in a shutdown role pretty much his whole career, but with a few different, he sort of had to prove himself and reprove himself as people decided he was washed, and now he's back and doing it so well. It's also, for me, I think because the playoffs have such lore to them, I like the idea of a grizzled veteran who maybe gets sick to death of 82 games. And you heard Jonathan Tate say how hard it is to do that. When Blake Wheeler retired, he said, well, I could probably do it a few times and still be great, but 82 games is a lot. Well, for these grizzled vets, playoff time is everything. And I think it's fun for me to believe that they can still elevate their games and have their hero moments, pulling the old Lionel Messi at the 2022 World Cup out of their bag and dominating. It's fun for me to see.
Fun for us to see. Game 6 goes Sunday in Vegas. Looking forward to all the pregame action and everything that goes around having a game in Vegas. Also the potential, well, the Cup will be in the building, but the potential of it handed out. Love seeing guys lift it, as you mentioned, the lore of the Stanley Cup, and we'll see what gets added to that on Sunday. A lot of conversation here this week, Murat, about Winnipeg Jets goaltender Connor Hrabchak. You had Matt Murley on the Game Notes podcast saying he's hearing rumblings. He's asked for a trade. Dave Pagnotta of the Fourth Period saying there's a lot of, I forget the term that he used, a lot of scuttlebutt or chatter going on, but nothing confirmed. Have you heard anything to indicate, as it seems like we're in the time, if you got a trade request, we had Larkin last week and Darnell Nurse this week.
I mean, it seems like it's just the season between now and, probably the draft, and eventually between now and July 1st, you're going to see players that want to get that sort of stuff sorted out. We could be heading for a flurry of activity, but to answer your question point blank, no, I'm unaware of Connor Hrabchak having said anything to the effect of get me out of here to the Winnipeg Jets. I don't know that that's happened. I don't know that it hasn't happened. I'm still sitting in my interpretation of Hrabchak's exit interview, which was that Winnipeg can't be complacent. It needs to compete soon. It needs to find ways to get players. But as intense as that was from Connor Hrabchak, one thing I didn't read into it was get me out the door right here, right now. Without a change in that, without Connor Hrabchak or his agent or somebody within the Winnipeg Jets who knows saying so, all I can tell you is that when I talk to league sources who like Hrabchak, sources who would love to have Hrabchak on their team, they're not acting to me as though there's this wide open frenzy for him right now. It makes sense that teams are calling the Winnipeg Jets, and I don't have the sense, not that I would automatically know, but I don't have the sense that it's as inevitable as some people are saying at this point.
Another, topic that's kind of in limbo, let's say, is Shane Doan, it was confirmed that he was interviewing here for a role. If Shane Doan does join the Winnipeg Jets organization, what role do you think he could be filling? And is it one, I know you wrote about, potentially player development. Is that something that you think the Jets are going to be looking to add to this offseason? Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense for a lot of reasons. Player development has been his bread and butter. He's gotten into the front office side of things, first in Arizona, Arizona, pardon me. Do I call it Phoenix? I almost did. That place. And then in Toronto, it's sort of been under his purview. And I haven't done the deep dive, but apparently he's done well in those roles and is seen as a bright next generation front office type of person. So the question is, how does he get from there to being a GM someday? And I think that player development in Winnipeg needs help. I think that they've had the same two former Moose, great careers, great people, all that sort of stuff, but they've had the same two people running that department for ever now. And I feel like they've lagged behind other teams of late. When I talk to league sources, it always seems that they're doing more and spending more. And I recently went through the organizational charts of the Hurricanes and Golden Knights, and it was night and day in terms of their spend and the amount of resources that they have. So that's the area that Winnipeg needs help. It's the area that's its expertise. Can you make an AGM role? Could he be involved with the Manitoba Moose in a Heisinger type role as well? Could he help with that as he, seeks himself? Probably, I assume, without knowing, he wants to grow. How do you become a GM? Well, you need to be an AGM at some point. And I can connect a lot of dots and make it make sense. The only thing that I would say is that he's also sought after by other organizations, and so we will see what he ultimately decides to do.
Do you get the sense for the Jets that it's Shane Doan or bust? You just mentioned he's interviewing with other organizations. I mean, are there other names that they're looking to add to their front office?
That's a great question. And the truth is, I don't know. I think that Doan created such a buzz because he was seen walking around Canada Life Center, and people were really quite easily able to confirm some of those details. And you talk to people, like it was so straightforward and all of that. The fit and the Jets legacy that he has would be the kind of story that True North likes telling. They've certainly told that story a whole lot of times, whether it's Arneal with his Jets ties or Jonathan Taves with his Winnipeg ties. They like to go that route. Do they have other options and alternatives? I'm not 100% sure about that. I have wondered if Nolan Baumgartner would ever return into the Oregon, some sort of role like that. But the truth is, I do not know, and it's a good question.
There's one of the questions in one of your most recent mailbags, Murat, was around the Winnipeg Jets defense corps. And there's been a lot of chatter around Connor Hrabchak this offseason and even Nikolai Ehlers as we watch him do what he's doing. But maybe one of the more underrated storylines is that you have the three biggest minute munchers for the Winnipeg Jets, those being Josh Morrissey, Dylan Samberg, and Dylan DeMello, with all three of their contracts being up for 2027-28. So not next year, but the year after. How big of a concern is that for the Winnipeg Jets? They obviously have Neil Pionk signed longer term, but that three of their biggest minute munching defensemen are nearing UFA status in a couple years.
Yeah, even the most optimistic scenario, like the Jets are right there. It was a rough year. They're right back at it. Playoffs, give them a shot next year. They clearly have a window with a finite time period, right? Josh Morrissey is the guy on D. He's Winnipeg's Makar or Hughes or whatever you want to bring to that. He is the Jets' ability to break open a game from the blue line. And it seems like every team has one of those now. Well, Winnipeg has a bona fide guy in that role. You get into a situation where you've got to move on from him, which I don't necessarily anticipate, and things are a huge problem. Dylan Samberg, he had an up and down year. When he came back from injury, he wasn't good right away, and he struggled at times. But I really believe in that player. And so you've got half of your top four, the ones that I believe in the most to be top four players on a real cup contender. They've got a ticking clock on them. Dylan DeMello, I think he's taken 2 years ago, he took a big step back in my mind. This year, I think he inched forward from that, but he's still at a situation where, you don't want him as your number one right shot D if you think that you're a cup contender. So as much as there's a ticking clock there, as much as there's that chemistry and Josh Morrissey will go to bat for DeMello any day of the week, I still think that that's a spot you want to upgrade. So it's less concerning. The point is, they're the three most important defensemen as measured by ice time. They have finite periods of time left on their contract. Morrissey and Samberg will definitely get large raises for whatever their next deals are. And it really increases the urgency if Winnipeg's trying to win, which they are, or for those out there saying, hey, this window isn't it, it might increase the urgency to move on from a start.
One player who may consider moving on from, well, I'm not so sure, but I did see on the Daily Faceoff trade board by Matt Larkin, he had Brad Lambert on there, who you may remember requested a trade that was reported or was given permission to seek a trade. Do you see him fitting in with the Winnipeg Jets this year, or is this a name, would he even have any value in the trade market?
Seem to be having connection issues.
Yeah.
I think you just asked me about Brad Lambert and a potential trade request.
Well,
I'm going to try to talk my way through it and then reconnect if I got it. I don't think that that's a live wire anymore.
Oh, we lost him. Well, I was reading in the Daily Face-Off, Matt Larkin had his trade board out, and I was kind of surprised to see Brad Lambert, and he referenced that trade request, or he was given permission to seek a trade earlier this year. I was like, oh yeah, that happened there. Murat, you're back here now. Connection looking okay?
What's going on here?
Yeah, it seems so. And in the other room too, I can hear my baby starting to cry, so I don't know what happened. All at the same time, something happened in this house. I don't know. On Brad Lambert, like even at the time, I was able to get pretty good sourcing on the idea that it wasn't a Winnipeg thing. It was I want to play in the NHL thing. And I think that what Lambert was able to do down the stretch reminded folks that, hey, he was having a tough time with the Moose, but he is capable of contributing to an NHL team. Take that a little bit further. He's also losing his waivers exemption. So Winnipeg would have to waive him or nothing. It's possible that he could be part of a trade if the Jets are looking to upgrade and he's a piece that they offer. But from here, without that trade made in terms of it being a package for a superior player, I think Brad Lambert's a likely Winnipeg Jet next year, and I don't see more Moose time for him either. I think he's made it.
Should mention this segment brought to you by our friends at Prairie Toyota Dealers, looking to dominate off the ice as much as your team does on it. Check out the Toyota Tacoma. The standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain. When it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tech days from March till May. Connor, you got one more here as we wrap up with Murat.
Yes, I do. One of the big questions this offseason is obviously around Connor Hrabchak, but if the Winnipeg Jets are going to be proactive and looking to add to their team and not be complacent and kind of grant his wish, if you will, one of the questions you were asked in your mailbag is around some of the best trade partners for the Winnipeg Jets this offseason. We know what their needs are when looking at the roster, and you've outlined that well at The Athletic, but who do you think are some of the trade partners that we could see the Winnipeg Jets discussing with when looking to add to their roster this offseason?
Yeah, in the mailbag, I start by talking about teams that need goalies, like Florida and Buffalo and et cetera. But like your question, Connor, if I've got you right, it's like, well, what if the Jets with Connor Hrabchak in their roster are looking to improve? And, the unfortunate thing about that for me is that it's got to be the number 8. That's it. If they're acquiring a second line center or second line help, like how do they get it? They don't have such a deep prospect pool. Like I really struggle. And yet I think the number 8 is their best path to top end talent that might stay in Winnipeg. So that's interesting. For trade partners in that regard, I still think Buffalo makes a lot of sense. I think that they're going to have some cap issues this summer. Not sure exactly what happens with Alex Tuch as of yet, but they need to make changes, I think, tweaks cap-wise if they're going to fit him, and they might be up against it even if they don't. I think Zach Benson needs a raise. Peyton Krebs might be the guy that squirts loose from Buffalo, for the lack of a better word. I think Dallas is going to be having some cap issues as well. I don't know if Jason Robertson stays, but if he does, could Maverick Bourque then be had and be made available? Same question for me with Jack Drury in Colorado. These are my desired trade chips to be clear. I'm sure those teams will try to keep them, but those are the teams that are running into a bit of cap hell theoretically this summer. Montreal's also close, and does that mean somehow I'm sure they'll let Laine go, but will Kirby Dach be made available? Will there be players that come free from that team as they look to take their next step? So those are some that come to mind.
Murat, thank you so much for taking the time. Got anything coming up that we should be looking out for in The Athletic?
Yeah, my next piece is a Who Says No mailbag, where we sort of took subscriber trade proposals, including ones with Hellebuck, including ones that address second line center, whether it's Pedersen or Mason McTavish or Anton Lundell or whomever, and took them to league executives, people who've worked in front offices, scouts, agents, all that sort of stuff, and said, okay, well, how realistic is this? So I'm really excited for that one. We got a lot of great trade proposals. I think that should come out tomorrow morning. And then from there, it'll be all about the draft.
Well, looking forward to touching base with you on that next week. Murat, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
There he is, Murat Atesh of The Athletic on XWPG. Murat, CFL season week 2 kicked off yesterday with the Bombers. We've got 2 great games this weekend. We'll touch on those a bit more in depth with Ben Kramer, Onside CFL Fantasy, coming up next.
Thursday is not only the Blue Bombers home opener, but it's the start of the World Cup, and Friday, Canada plays its first game on home soil Friday afternoon. Get down to Royal Sports and get geared up for the World Cup, with the best selection of Canada merchandise you will find anywhere, as well as all the top teams from the FIFA World Cup. They are ready to go. They got hats, scarves, jerseys, your favorite players on Team Canada, and more. And it's all waiting for you at Royal Sports. And Friday, mandatory wear red day from coast to coast to get behind the team. So get down to Royal Sports. While you're there, you can check out their massive selection of soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, everything you need to get outside and dominate summer. Not to mention, in the back, a massive selection of bikes. Tons of different models, styles, including e-bikes. Royal Sports has it all. So get ready for the World Cup and take advantage of the beautiful Manitoba summer with a trip to Royal 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Should be a fun week for the Fish. They continue this long homestand tonight. Little off day today, and then tomorrow, kicking off a series, which will, of course, be $2 Tuesdays, one of the new features this year out at the ballpark. There is a whole bunch of deals to got. $2 hot dogs, a $2 lemonade, so much more. It's also country night, so think about heading out there tomorrow. It's also shirt off their backs night on Thursday night against Cleburne. And they've also got a 6:30 start tomorrow night before the team hits the road. So busy weekend. And we should also mention, if you go to the Gold Eye site, we're going to have Andrew Collier on to talk about this coming up in a little bit. But for those of you that like beer, of course, we had the Flatlanders Beer Festival a couple years ago. The Ballpark Brew Fest returns July 18th. More information and a link to buy tickets for that right now online at goldeyes.com. We got a lot of fun stuff cooking with our friends at Travel Manitoba this week. And we're actually going to head down and be doing our show on Thursday from the Visitors Information Center at the Forks. Really looking forward to that. But if you are planning your next adventure, thinking about this summer, start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and events, everything you need is waiting for you at travelmanitoba.com. We're looking for ideas on the go. Follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from across the province. Or if you prefer a personal touch, stop by stop by the Visitor Information Center at the Forks in Winnipeg. And tomorrow, they are back at the track at Assiniboia Downs, live racing this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. post time. Man, we had a good time last Wednesday out at the races. They'll also do it next Tuesday and Wednesday, and then mark down June 22nd. That's the next Monday night of racing, and they've got some incredible Monday deals, including very similar to the $2 of the Gold Eyes on Tuesdays. Popcorn, hot dogs, soft drinks, all at big-time concession discounts. Make a night of it. And by the way, if you're thinking about a Monday to go, I have already circled July 13th to go take advantage of those deals, but also because there will be wiener dog racing. Yes, you heard me right, at the track on July 13th. So while it's nice outside, get out to the track out on the west side of the city, asdowns.com for more information, and you are encouraged to try and get a spot in that clubhouse dining room. Take advantage of that amazing prime rib buffet on nights of live racing as well. Again, AS Downs for all that information. We'll get back to our picks tomorrow when we fire it up on WST.
And there's us. We'll show off some of his World Cup pictures later on in the show. But hey, CFL season's underway. Pleased to be joined right now by Ben Kramer of Onside CFL Fantasy, looking ahead, well, to the rest of week 2. Ben, how about that one last night with Hamilton putting up a ton of points and former Bomber Carrick Wheatfall with the 100-yard game?
Yeah, just catching the prayers, right? Like, it was kind of wild to watch that one last night. Like, we had him projected, I think, for about 58 yards, and the prop lines came out about 32.5. So we were pumping our fists after one catch last night, which was really nice. It turned into a good night for us on the prop side of things. But yeah, it was unexpected to just see the deep balls flying free and loose for him all night when you have other players like Kenny Lawler only had 2 targets in the first half. He was kind of a forgotten man and has been these first 2 weeks. So it's kind of funny that Hamilton made him the highest paid receiver in the league to give him 3 targets a night as the most highly paid decoy in the CFL.
Obviously, you're tapped into the entire CFL, and we still have teams that haven't even played yet, with BC and Saskatchewan playing Saturday night for their first games of the season. What is maybe something that has surprised you so far this season, and maybe a way a team is running the ball more, throwing the ball more? Here in Winnipeg, they threw the ball a ton last night because they were losing. Is there anything that's kind of shocked you so far?
Shocked me. I'm surprised that Hamilton has been able to pass with as much consistency as they have without having Kenny Lawler involved in this offense at all. That has been surprising to me. He was a guy who was consistently 24% target share game to game, sometimes as high as 30, easily cracking 8 targets a game, and he just hasn't been involved in the offense so far. And nonetheless, they've been distributing the ball really well, moving it with ease, as you guys unfortunately had to watch last night. And it's been really something how easily they've been able to get all their guys involved this year. Well, Lawler has really been the most highly paid wide receiver 4 or 5 so far this year. So I expect at some point he's probably going to get a little bit more work than he has been. But to this point, the guys like Wheatfall, Myron Mitchell, Keandre, they've all been making it happen for him. So they haven't been having to push the ball in there otherwise. I think the other one that surprised me a bit is Colaros has put up the numbers last night. As you saw, they've been kind of a tale of 2 teams so far this year, running all week in week 1 and passing all night in week 2. But his throwing motion looks a little bit stiff. And that would concern me a little bit if I was watching them going forward, that he threw ball into what should have been kind of non-throwing spots, like the pick to Stavros and one in the red zone early on in the first half, where his receivers were just clearly covered and tried to force it anyways. The shoulder looks a little bit stiffer than it has from him sometimes. So I think that's one thing that would probably concern me a little bit for the Bombers, is just seeing if he can loosen up and get into a groove a bit more.
Yeah, I'll see how that goes. They got the bye week off this week, but it continues tonight, the season. Montreal, Toronto, what are you looking out for in tonight's game?
Toronto is the story tonight of the return of Chad Kelly, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like after a full 18 months away from football. Whether he's going to come back and be able to fit into a groove pretty quick, and what's a new offense, because they have a new staff there this year, and whether he's going to be able to feel back into form. We've seen with Deshaun Watson down in the NFL that after a year and a half away, some guys just don't have it. Even if their bodies have healed up, it's too long away from the game to be able to get back into the flow efficiently, and it's just not there anymore. So I think we'll probably give him a few weeks to be able to determine whether he is his old self or whether it's kind of a broken down version version of what we should be expecting. But it'll be interesting to see what Kelly is able to produce, and then now what this new offense looks like. Last year, they were easily the worst-looking rushing offense in the league, running just 28% of the time for a league-low 4.1 yards a carry. In preseason, they were running up to 45% of the time in their 2 preseason games. So it'll be interesting to see what this offense looks like with a little bit new understanding of what they're going to be committed to and how they're going to get all these guys involved.
When we look ahead to the rest of the weekend, and it's BC Saskatchewan on Saturday, what are you going to be watching for in that one when 2 of what are projected to be some of the most high-powered offenses in the CFL do battle for the first time this season?
Yeah, like BC's bringing back their whole juggernaut, basically. They've only lost Aiden Eberhardt, and he was kind of the wide receiver 4 or 5 on a good week for them. So it's not a major loss. They're probably going to replace him with Seven McGee and Kieran Poisson. They're never going to get more than the 10% target share anyway. So it's going to be, can the Rough Riders secondary contain the highly packed weapons that they've got, the receiving core? Because they weren't able to last year. They just kind of managed to outscore them for the most part. BC has a couple new corners that they're going to be debuting on Saturday night as well. So it'll be interesting to see what Saskatchewan is able to do with their retooled receiving core too. Now that they're down Dante Myers and they are down Ajo and some of these other names that they relied on last season, whether some of the new names like Dale Duncan Busby or Jalen Johnson are going to be able to fill in some of those roles, or if you're going to have Sam Emilus and Keyshawn Johnson just getting 10 targets a game and becoming a little bit more one-dimensional, kind of like we've seen from the Montreal offense in week 1, where it was just completely Philpott and Sneed, and the rest of the guys were basically just taking up space.
Looking at the betting lines for tonight, are there any props that stand out to you? When we're looking at, what to wager on for this evening?
Today has been a really interesting one looking at the books, as a lot of lines have moved about 10 or 15 yards from where they opened when our projections came out a couple hours ago. They opened up at 32.5 yards for Sam Hicks, the new Toronto running back. I think he's up to 45 now. We were on that over. And then we were looking at Kevin Mattal, and he was a pretty solid over bet too. He opened up about 32.5 yards, and I think he's up to about 45 as well. So if you can find some of those lower lines, there's certainly some available, and the Toronto overs are going to pop on those receivers, just given how heavy they were on the pass last season. So it'll be interesting to see how pass reliant they are this year, playing from behind, especially as 6.5-point dogs, or whether they are going to be able to have to stick with the pass and keep those guys flying.
Ben, I know a lot of us playing, season-long CFL fantasy. I'm in a matchup with Hustler this week, but for everyone out there who is playing, let them know about Onside CFL fantasy and where they can find all the best stuff to help them win their league this season.
Yeah, onsidefantasy.substack.com has everything that you need for CFL fantasy football, with lineup updates, player projections, and all kinds of news and information to make sure you're on top of your player movement, what you need to set the best lineup each week. And for props bettors, we have player projections for every player in every game all season right through the end of the Grey Cup to let you know what your options are for overs and unders statistics, so you can make a few extra bucks along the way.
Ben, thanks a lot for taking the time. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, have a good one, you guys. Enjoy the games.
Perfect. There he is, Ben Kramer. Follow him on X at Ben Yamen, Benyamen. He's the guy with the best info you'll see on CFL Fantasy, Onside CFL Fantasy on Substack. We'll get more into the notebook with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton next. But first, here's a little bit from Huss.
Getting into our Breezy Bend golf report, we have the RBC Canadian Open this week. Pat Gregoire will join me tomorrow. We'll dive into our favorite picks and plays for the RBC Canadian Open. But I do want to, while we're talking about Breezy, give a big shout out to Breezy Bend's Braxton Kuntz, who played in yesterday's longest day in golf, the 36-hole U.S. Open qualifier against a ton of players on the PGA Tour. Braxton was phenomenal, finished at 8 under par, missing by just 1 stroke. So a bit of a heartbreaker for the young pro out of Breezy Bend, but big things ahead for Braxton Kuntz. So had to give him a hat tip on this. Of course, Canadian Open week, always a big one for Canadian golf. We'll look forward to catching it. In the meantime, if you want to get out on one of the best golf courses in the city, and are thinking about making a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, check out breezybend.ca or give a call to the clubhouse at 895-7205. Speaking of great things to do in the summer like golf, if you are into fishing, you're going to want to check out Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Nothing like a trip to Aikens where you can be on the water after a short flight in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality is even better. Although I did see on the Aikens Instagram feed last night that a young kid, could not have been more than 12 or 13 years old, put together 3 straight century clubs and multiple master angler walleyes. The fish are biting at Aikens right now. Check out aikenslake.com for more information on availabilities for the rest of the 2026 fishing season. And just as we continue, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
There's us, and he just put out the picture at Canada, Bosnia, 2 o'clock. We're on early today, and he's joining us, again, an hour earlier than normal on Friday. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, plenty in his NFL notebook. Well, it's all sports notebook at leehacksawhamilton.com. Lee, thanks a lot for taking the time to come on with us today.
Yeah, you guys excited about World Cup? I just saw a video of the parade in Toronto. That's pretty impressive. That's cool. And is that Hustler there walking down the street with no shirt and a Canadian flag painted on his chest?
I don't know if he's a tarps off kind of guy, but we'll have to see. It is quite the scene there, walking to the match in Toronto. But leading off your NFL notebook, a guy Hustler does love to talk about Patrick Mahomes' record-setting contract restructure for the Chiefs quarterback.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing, because of the salary cap and again, quarterbacks are front and center in terms of getting contract upgrades, extensions, restructures, but it always comes with a credit card bill that's due at the end. And this is the 3rd time they've extended out Mahomes' contract. Not that he does not deserve state-of-the-art money, but the fact you keep pushing dollars back against the cap, you're going to get to the finish line where you're going to have a cap figure. It's going to be $80 or $90 million, which you can't get out of. He's obviously had a tremendous career, but this is now an 8-year package worth $504 million. This is a cap figure of $60 million per year, highest now in the history of the National Football League. And I'm just curious, when does this ever end, at least for him? Because that's going to paralyze Kansas City somewhere down the road. You can only do this creative financing so long. So that Chiefs story is quite a significant story. There's a sidebar story going on in Kansas City as they wrap up their OTAs, get ready for their short break, and then open camp. Eric Bieniemy came back to camp. He is now their offensive coordinator and running backs coach. He had been with Andy Reid for a long period, left to go to UCLA after he failed to get a head coaching job. Got bounced out of UCLA when they fired everybody after 1 year on the position. But anyhow, Bieniemy is back, and he has just brought vibrancy and loudness to their workouts. He is at other end of the spectrum from Andy Reid, who's so passive. And the players are just praising Bieniemy's intensity and his, detail to get these young guys up and running as to what the NFL is going to be all about. So, it's a little bit of a different approach in Kansas City's camp, only because Bieniemy's back with his loudness, and he coaches hard. He is on players all the time. So it'd be fascinating to see if Kansas City's persona bounces back to what Kansas City used to be when Bieniemy was there the first tour of duty.
Lee, there's a lot of other things going on in the NFL right now. I'm a 49ers fan, so I'm keeping up with this Brandon Ayuk saga, which is just ridiculous, everything that keeps coming out about it. But maybe just run through some of the biggest storylines happening in and around the NFL right now as, camps start to, their training camps are about to open maybe in a month or so.
Yeah. Connor, let's just start with a big rumor. I don't know where this is coming from, why this is happening at this point, but there are reports out there that San Francisco has contacted the Raiders about a trade for defensive end Max Crosby. And they'd be willing to trade a number one pick and last year's number one pick, a defensive end Michael Williams. I say it's odd because Crosby had gone back to the Raiders after the failed Baltimore Ravens transaction. But I saw a video of the OTA workouts and Max Crosby attempting to run. And he's coming off major knee surgery. He does not look like he can run. He does not look like he's anywhere near ready to be in somebody's camp going full bore. And of course, the angle to the cancellation of the trade in Baltimore was that they appeared, the Dallas doctor, who's the independent physician, examined everything. And he was of the opinion that Max Crosby is in a debilitating situation with his knee. He had meniscus surgery, there's cartilage issue, there might be arthritis that's on the way, and he's had a lot of wear and tear, and he's been a great, great player. So I'm kind of stunned that San Francisco be involved with trade talks for a guy that seems to be on the other side of his career, where the slope is probably going down because of the physical problems with the knee. The Ayuk situation is ugly. There's something not right with this player who's breached his contract, who stopped going to rehab assignments, suddenly disappeared from showing up at team meetings. It's just been AWOL completely. And the stunts that he's pulling down with all these videos. Hey, he's walking down the road like another great receiver walked down a road and suddenly disappeared off the NFL radar. Remember Antonio Brown and how good he was and all the junk that he did at the end and how nobody would touch him? NFL sources are saying this guy's untradeable. Nobody's going to want to touch this guy. This guy is toxic. Plus, he had a major knee injury, and it's taken him a year and a half, and nobody knows whether he's back because he stopped going to the club-sanctioned rehab. So, Connor, the 49ers storylines are just kind of really, really weird right there. Briefly elsewhere, LA Rams, they have just canceled the rest of their offseason workouts. They like everything they've put in place. Don't want to get anybody hurt. So they're going to take their break early, take an extended break, and then bring them to camp because most people have the opinion Super Bowl potential season there. The big storyline there is Sean McVay made the comment yesterday when they made the announcement that they were closing their mini camps early. He says the door is open for Aaron Donald. If Aaron Donald, the Pro Bowl defensive tackle, 10-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle, who walked away from the game at age 29, not because of injuries, just walked away. He wants to come back. The door is open for him. So a very interesting couple of weeks before they open training camp to see what transpires. The aftermath of the Philadelphia A.J. Brown trade, Connor, is really unique. A.J. Brown goes to New England, ends his silence on everything. He didn't talk to anybody in the media up until this week. And he told the Patriot beat writers that all the stuff I said in Philadelphia was to try to make the team better, challenge the offense, which finished 24th in the NFL. Everything I said, although it was taken by the media as being insulting, was to improve the offense. And it was about the team. It was not about me. That's his rationalization. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, it was really interesting as they wrapped up their OTAs. Jalen Hurts finally met with the media. He was asked about the trade of A.J. Brown. He said, we accomplished a lot. That's all he said. He said, my focus right now is on the here and now. I'm not talking about anything else, which obviously leads you to believe that Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, had a really bad falling out there. The dateline is Cleveland. This is a weird set of circumstances. They have this quarterback derby going on right now with the new head coach and with Todd Monken. Well, Monken says they're not ready to name a starter, not after the first practice, not after the first week of OTAs, not after OTAs. Don't ask me. But he said these guys are making progress. Talking about Deshaun Watson, talking about Shedeur Sanders, who actually was really complimentary about the grasp of the playbook that Sanders has and the accuracy that Shedeur has shown throwing deep balls down the field, which was really a negative all of last season. But there's a sidebar story because Jim Haslam, the outspoken owner, made a comment in early spring after the draft that it was a big swing and miss. The amount of money, the draft picks we give up to get Deshaun Watson. Watson was asked about that. Watson's of the opinion, does not matter. I'm here. We're going to try to get the job done. And one other big story is going on in Minnesota. This involves Kevin O'Connell, the coach. This involves the quarterback competition with Kyler Murray and the one with the second-year quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, who played really, really badly last year, a little bit overwhelmed, got hurt, made a lot of mistakes, great physical talent, but he's not ready to be a true starter. Anyhow, McCarthy popped off last week at the start of OTAs. I'm on the other side of the quarterback room. And the media said, what do you mean? He said, I'm on the other side of the quarterback room. It's like he has no relationship with Kyler Murray. And Kevin O'Connell got wind of that, and he just put his foot down. And he met with him privately, he and the other quarterback. And then he met with the media, and he told the media what he said. And this was pretty impressive. Kevin O'Connell said, you two quarterbacks don't have to be friends. You two quarterbacks have to be good teammates. You two quarterbacks need to do everything I want on this practice field because you're under me. I mean, it was really strong. Murray, obviously, they're trying to retool him because he did not play consistent in Arizona. He was always hurt. They're trying to refine him and make him more of a pocket passer and a sometime runner rather than a freelance guy. And in terms of McCarthy, there's just a lot of things there. There's injuries. He's got great raw talents, but his ability to read defenses, always being late, his mechanics are flawed. So he's kind of a real work in progress. But boy, Kevin O'Connell, once he got hold of J.J. McCarthy's comments, and he was right. He met with both of them, and then he met with the media like an hour after the quarterback meeting and said, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm going to demand of these two guys. Don't have to be friends, but you're going to be good teammates, and I'm going to try to make you a good quarterback. So there's some of the hot items. It's the off season. There's a lot of hot items to talk about in the NFL, Connor.
Oh, yeah. And moving on to the NBA lead, did you watch that game or did you turn it off with a 29-point lead? And can the Knicks get it done here on Saturday?
I'm going to throw a word at you that nobody's brought up. Everybody's talked about the historical comeback. Everybody's talked about the hysterical New York fans, Spike Lee and friends. Nobody's talking about San Antonio's immaturity. And that's what cost them this game. You know, this is a first-year head coach. Please tell me why Mitch Johnson did not use more of his timeouts. Tell me why he let those guys come down the floor and keep launching threes, missing threes, and the Knicks kept going back the other way and converting baskets and getting 2+1s. You know, Mitch Johnson just, I thought, let the game overwhelm him. The other thing is, Wembanyama played 23 minutes in the second half. He had less than 1 minute breathing time on the bench, and he was gassed towards the end. That's a coaching mistake. You know, rotate your guys in. And the other thing, as New York chipped away at the lead, you know, run the clock, run some plays, take some time off. You know, give Wembanyama the ball down on the block. There was a lot of whack and hack. There was a lot of taunting. There were a lot of hard fouls, etc. But San Antonio really, I thought, got worn down. But I think the immaturity of Wembanyama for the taunting and the immaturity of his first-year head coach, I think, really kind of put them behind the eight ball. Now, they've had 2 days to get healthy. Can San Antonio win at home? Yeah. But can San Antonio win 3 straight against the Knicks? I don't know. And no, I didn't turn it off. You know, in the evening here, I write all the content from my website. I write a ton of stuff. So I watched that game intently, and when it became 76-49, I didn't turn it off, but I was concentrating all I was running. I kept looking up, and they kept chipped away. I said, no, they're not going to be able to do this, and they did it. Just absolutely amazing. So it'll be Saturday night. It's going to be fun. The TV ratings, guys, at least here in the States, is absolutely through the roof, so that'll be fun.
Lee, the other, the NBA Finals going on, Stanley Cup Final, the World Cup is starting or underway officially. Canada's about to begin their first game in a matter of minutes here. What's your excitement level for the World Cup? And in the U.S., what's the excitement level down there? Are there high hopes for the U.S. team this year?
I think this is the best firepower the Team USA has ever had. And that goes back to the Landon Donovan, Alexei Lalas, Clint Dempsey era. This is a pretty good side. Do they have enough? The one thing they're missing, they don't have a stud in goal. Tim Howard was a great goalkeeper. And prior to that, they've got Tony Meola and some others that had fabulous goaltending. This is kind of unproven what they've got between the posts. That'll be a challenge. But this coach is unbelievably pushy. He's dominant. He has sold unity. He's just made unbelievable demands on his players, and they've responded. Christian Pulisic, obviously, is the veteran at age 25, but they've got so many young guys. And the difference in Team USA this year than ever before, going back to 1950, when they won the first time ever in the World Cup, they've got 17 guys on this roster who played in Europe. And Europe is the great training grounds for global stardom. So this will be fun. Now, are they equal to Argentina? No. Are they equal to Spain or France? I seriously doubt it. But they should win the group. And if they can win one and get to the quarterfinals, get to the group of 16, that would be a huge accomplishment. So I gave you a long answer. I think this is the best firepower roster they've had. But that's on paper. You've got to show it on the pitch. And tonight, against a rugged Paraguay team that beats you up, we'll see how they hold up. And everybody down here is excited, probably much like everybody is up there. And obviously, I watched the Mexico game where they totally destroyed their opponent yesterday at South Korea. So I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. There's a lot of junk off the field that we've had to deal with here in the States. I wrote a huge column on the website about the history of the World Cup. Posted it yesterday. If you go search out my website, you'll be able to see it there.
Perfectly. It's been great having you on as we get out a bit early here shortly to watch the Canada game. Why don't you let people know where they can find all of your writings online?
Well, go to my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's all written. It's there every day. You can subscribe, which means you get the email list. We send out 2 newsletters a day off my website. You will really like that. And also post on my website all the videos that we've done. So check out my column on the World Cup. Check out, I write a column every day on top of all the other news and notes in the best 15 minutes in sports. And I think you'll like it. And of course, we do the podcast Mondays and Thursdays normally at 1:30 Pacific, 3:30 your time? Yeah, 3:30 your time.
Perfectly. Thanks again. Great having you on, and check them out online. Hacksaw 1090 as well on social media. Appreciate it, Lee.
Guys, enjoy the World Cup. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Perfect. There he is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Endless amounts of stuff there in the NFL notebook. Connor, time to wind the showdown here, but we should check out the cool bet lines as I bring them up right away. We can check out Canada in the soccer at the World Cup. Canada special. Where is it? Right here. As I bring everything up right now. -116 to win, +260 to draw, and Bosnia +3 to 5. So Canada, a favorite as they're about to kick off. Let's take a look at the Stanley Cup Final. Hurricanes favorites in Game 6, slightly -115. Every game so close, but favorite to win the series. Hurricanes big favorites +235. We also mentioned the Conn Smythe, Jordan Staal, the favorite -120. Mitch Marner +235. Logan Stankoven +700. Hall +700. And then Ehlers +1600. Any lean on either of those, Connor, for the Cup Final?
Yeah, I still, if Vegas maybe pushes this to a Game 7, and the year McDavid won the Conn Smythe, that series went 7, and they have to submit their votes with 10 minutes left in the third, sort of thing. I still don't mind Marner for Conn Smythe. If Carolina wins this in Game 6, then you might see Staal, who's the favorite right now, which is like unreal that Jordan Staal is going to win the Conn Smythe. But looking forward to this soccer game as well. And there was I don't know if it's available since it's 2:00 now, but so this might be old news, but there was a super boost for Canada to win +200 on Coolbet as well in the exclusives. But looking for CFL action tonight as well. We have Ben Kramer on. I'll be watching that after the soccer game.
Yeah, CFL tonight. We'll go to that. Montreal big favorite against Toronto -6.5. Saskatchewan -2.5 against BC. That's the game to watch. I think the 2 top teams in the West. And just looking at futures, they took the futures down. The Bombers started off +600 to win the Grey Cup. They went down to +575. I'm curious where they're going to be after this weekend. NBA Finals. That is going Saturday in San Antonio. They're actually favorites, -5.5 point favorites at homes. And we mentioned Wemby missing those 2 free throws at the end. He made the mistake at the end of the other game, passing to a guy's back. Was that game was that game 2? Some questionable stuff there. MVP, do they have they don't have MVP. Oh, do they? Jalen Brunson -110. How about the former Raptor OG Anunoby plus 210? Immortalized with the putback winner in the last game was that game 4. So looking for, I'm dialed in on that. And there's UFC this weekend as well. UFC 250 from the White House. I may have to tune in just to see what that looks like on Saturday with the NBA. We got the NBA Finals and also this CFL game, BC Saskatchewan. So the marbles are open. We are starting early, and I did promise pictures of Hustler from the World Cup. Check out our Twitter. And I should mention, Connor, we put out a great newsletter earlier this week, winnipegsportstalk.com. At the bottom, just saying, hey, if you missed any segments, this is where to catch some of them. And also, news on events, tickets to Gold Eyes Night or Gold Eyes Patio Party, winnipegsportstalk.com at the top of the page. So looking forward to seeing everyone. You've even made special arrangements to make the Gold Eyes Patio Party.
I did. So I'm going to Toronto that weekend before Canada Day, and my flight was originally that night, kind of in the middle of the Gold Eyes game, but I was able to change it. So I'm landing a little bit earlier. Now I can make the game. Really looking forward to it. It was an absolute blast last year, and the fact that we have the Tuesday, $2 Tuesdays, right? It's also Ukrainian night that night, and I go to the Ukrainian night Gold Eyes game every single year regardless. So this is, double whammy here with WST night on Ukrainian night. Love to see that. And then it's Canada Day the next day. So should be fun. And then the draft is around there, NHL free agency. So that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
You mentioned Ukraine. We should also mention Filipino night at the Sea Bears. They're home against Calgary. They're favorites, -5.5 points. That game tonight at 7. So much going on as we talked about yesterday in the city, live from the Travel Manitoba Visitor Center. I did close the marble race. Bit of a lighter load today with the earlier start. People, are going to be showing up normally at in an hour. Be like, hey, where's the marbles? And we'll be like, well, this Canada historic soccer game, a home World Cup game, incredible stuff. So let me just paste the names. We do have 88 marbles. So if you're in today, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for probably having your notifications on and, not just popping in at, 2:45 on a regular Friday, type in ! marbles, the real OGs in the chat today. So great to see so many familiar names. As I put them in, Connor, big plans for the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a great sports weekend. I can tell you that. Today, Canada World Cup is underway. Blue Jays tonight. They start a series against the Yankees. Looking forward to that. Some great CFL games tonight, and then BC Saskatchewan on Saturday. Stanley Cup Final, NBA Finals. It's going to be I'm going to be glued to my couch. I think it's a bad weekend to be a coach, Remo. What about you?
What? You're not going to get out? You're not going camping or anything?
What?
You're not hitting up the
No,
lake?
not this weekend. No, unfortunately. My family is camping this weekend, but no, just too much going on here in the city. Yeah, on my couch specifically.
Really? Wow. I don't know what I have, what I've got going on. My wife's out of town, so I'm going to have to find stuff to do with my kids, taking them to activities. Would like to get outside, would like to get to some park or something. So I gotta get on the horn here and figure things out. I want to pick a track though. Let me see which one real quickly. Okay, I haven't picked this one for a while. I see this one. We'll do Twists and Turns. Where is it?
Sounds good.
Twists and Turns.
You said
88
Yeah, go
marbles.
ahead.
88.
88. Okay. Nice. Nicely done. Shout out everyone who's here. Go Canada. This game's underway. Love to see it. And yeah.
We do have it's also RBC Canadian Open. Yes, Hustler would be all over that. There's been a lot going on.
Open, yeah.
Has it even started? Started the round? Let me see the leaderboard here. I don't have it up. I'm doing too many things here, Connor. Too many
things. It is underway. at TPC Toronto. Man, what a busy time for Toronto.
Man, it's the World Cup, Canadian Open, Blue Jays, Yankees, and I think there's some big concerts this weekend as well.
Luke Combs was just there, I know, in Toronto. And
Okay,
busy.
I almost went to the marble race without playing the theme song. How could I? Would have been a big fail from me. But we'll give it a shout out here to Tristan Rivers music. I don't know which one to pick. I haven't picked this one for a while.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. From the whole day, so lax you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Give life a try. It's time to do a marble race. No skill separated past 2 words. Marble race. Just like marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spam or you will suffer. Marble race. Into your mark before it's too late. Set go.
Tristan Rivers music, and that's how it all started. I said, Tristan, you got to do an acoustic version. Big fan of unplugged, acoustic versions of electric songs. And Tristan put that one, which led to more and more Marble Race theme songs. So we're going to wind the show down with the Marble Race. 88 people in. We are in twists and turns. Let's go. I'm dropping the marbles.
Yeah, let's do it.
Into the funnel. So many marbles. 88. So good odds today. Shout out to everyone who joined in. I haven't done this one in a while, twists and turns. I did mark it down as like one of the good tracks that come with it. Not the community done tracks, but
it's a winner.
It looks like we're in the funnel, and who is going to come out first? I think that was last week's winner, Lulu. But Mrs. J. Jones and Joni Thurston, is leading. And they're going down through the pegs into yet another funnel. Joni, Lulu, and Mrs. Jones. There's D-Cell, Stiff Cliff, Ray OG. But a number of marbles in there. Darth Skater regularly in the chat. Shout out to everyone who's out here on a Friday. Does anyone else out there have big weekend plans, or is it just sit on the couch watching sports like Connor here? Too much to get to. I think Saturday night, I was talking to my friends, UFC, that CFL game, NBA Finals, a lot to get to. But it's Mrs. J. Jones who's kind of been running the table. First, still out of the gate, Darth Skater. We've got one funnel, and then they're going 2 separate ways here. Oh, they're stuck on the upside. Closer down, Joni is in their Stiff Cliff number 2, and Darth Skater's first on the other side. But there's this spinning board. Who's going to get through? Stiff Cliff, Mrs. J. Jones. It's going to be a race to the finish. There's Blake in there. Going to be very tight. Mrs. J. Jones and Stiff Cliff coming into the middle. Bam! Mrs. J. Jones with the winner. I don't know if that's Jennifer Jones or Janet Jones. Anyways, that is the winner. Stiff Cliff, number 2. Blake Zamerkut, number 3. Shane Payne, number 4. Jay LaBoss, shout out to Julian, number 5. D. Cell, 6. Chucker, 4004. 7. Rob, 2 Beers Kane, shout out to Rob. Trevor Frost, 9842. And Bardo and Nicole J coming up the rear in last place. How about that one? That was a quicker one. Yeah. A minute 50. But hey, we're going to go enjoy this Canada match against Bosnia in the World Cup. I'm going to see if I can raid some watch party. We got Mrs. J. Jones, Stiff Cliff, Shane Payne. There we go. Let's go to this. iHeart was asking, an 11th iHeart. There's Amanda T. Will, Mike Cochran, Mary Jane, Rob Pepper. So many familiar names each and every week here for the marble race. Appreciate everyone who's out here on a Friday. So looking forward. Hopefully the weather's good. We had some rough rain. I know a number of listeners and chatters had some difficulty with their basements. Sorry to hear about that. But again, it's summer here. Sun setting late. Maybe I'll sit on my patio here and enjoy some of the sports this weekend, Connor, right? It's a lot to choose from.
Lots to choose from. And I know Hustler and you have been talking about this on the show this week, but it's a pretty incredible time to be a sports fan. There's so many things going on right now. And now that the World Cup is underway and we're going to be cheering for Canada, that's just another thing that adds on to our schedule. It's 2 TV season, right, Remo?
Man, I got multiple, especially Saturday with, first of all, there's baseball, World Cup, and then you have NBA Finals, UFC, and the CFL Saturday. So, yeah, I got a couple. I was double screening it last night with the Bombers and the Stanley Cup. I've been looking forward to Game 6 on Sunday, and hopefully we can wrap up this season and look forward to the draft and whatever else is going on the hot stove. So, hey, shout out to you, Connor, for joining me today. Looking forward to Sunday Live on Sunday. Shout out to all the listeners who've shown up here, and shout out to our guests today, John Hodge, Murat, Atesh, Ben Kramer, Lee, Hacksaw, Hamilton, and shout out to the sponsors. Without them, we would not be here talking to you today. Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery, Clean Line, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, St. Vital Dental, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Travel Manitoba, Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Little Brown Jug, and Coolbet. We're not going to be doing a watch party here, but I'll send you over to the guys in Edmonton who are. Enjoy the World Cup. Have a great weekend. Hustler will be back on Monday. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.